Hello, everyone. This is the KMN 1971 back again with another comic book stack of comic book geek goodness. I'm going to start it off extra geeky this week with a connecting cover. It's been a while since I've had any connecting covers in my vids, and this one is a beauty. Um, I am very biased when it comes to this artist, George Perez, my Jack Kirby of my generation. Loved him on the New Teen Titans, and I never bought this series when it came out, DC Legacies. I was aware of it, but I just looked at it as kind of a rehashing or retelling of a lot of stuff that I already knew, so I kind of skipped over it. But I would have picked up these issues fresh off the rack if I would have been aware. This These two connecting covers basically encompass what happened on Crisis on Infinite Earths, the classic comic book crossover, in my opinion. And this is what was called as the Villain War, which happened in, I believe, Crisis number 8 and 9. And even though that was a really cool part of the Maxi series, there was stuff that happened that's happening in this cover that didn't happen in that Maxi series, and stuff till this day that I haven't seen happen in any comic books, such as when you see Captain Marvel or Shazam facing off against Lex Luthor in the battle armor. You have Wonder Woman facing off against Black Adam. I want to say Power Girl facing off against Sinestro. And if you look all the way up here in the top right hand corner, you have Deathstroke punching Vigilante in the mush out of a skyscraper. Just beautifully, beautifully rendered by George Perez. A lot of stuff going on in this cover. So, very cool. And you can have this dirt cheap just about anywhere. So, I would highly suggest picking these issues up just for the love of art. Whoops. As I've stated lately, I'm going to try to implement stuff from my weekly pull list if I quote unquote warrant it as interesting or something that I think that might be of interest of people or something for other people also, rather. So this is a comic that I don't collect. I picked this one up specifically just for the cover. This is DC Bombshells number 27. Obviously, just a kind of a kick-ass Poison Ivy and Harley cover. And this is one of those deals where this comic is extremely it has a low print run. So if this cover does garner interest over time, this will be one of those cases that when people do try to go after it later on, it has a low print run, and we all know how that story goes. Satana number 14, and I've been trying to snag up any issues of Zatanna that I can find at a decent price. This was $2.99 minus 20%, I guess. So beautiful Adam Hughes cover though. Still chipping away at that X-Men oriented haul that has just a bunch of different X titles that I was going to showcase probably, I don't know, 2 weeks ago, but I just figured that was just too much X-Men stuff, and I'd like to just pepper it out throughout a couple of different hauls. So this is X-Force number 14, second printing, and yeah, I've been chipping away at this volume of X-Force also, and pretty good stuff. And I actually like this cover better than the first printing because this actually has a wraparound cover, and I am a sucker for a good wraparound cover. So. And I also picked up X-Force number 20. Both of those were for $1. I guess after New Comic Book Day, one of my comic book shops, I go to one of the New England comic book shops in the area, and they just revamped their dollar bins, which is cool because it was pretty dry for a while. I haven't been able to pick up any cheap Copper, Star Wars, G.I. Joe, or X-Men comics in quite some time, and as you know, as you've seen in other hauls, I was a big fan of that. So really cool to get this, and I guess this is one of the blood variants too. So to snag that for $1, that's pretty cool. This was like $1.50 at a half off sale. Wolverine number 37. This the deal with this issue is the clone that you saw fight Logan in the last Logan movie is loosely based on this cyborg mess of a character. So I want to say this might be either his first appearance or his cameo appearance, and number 38 is his first full appearance, but no big deal. But it's one of those deals. I'm a Wolverine fan, so I bought X-23's test tube issue. I have the first appearance of Wolverine's Ultimate Wolverine son, so it should be no surprise that I would go and pick this issue up too. So any excuse to pick up a Wolverine issue is pretty cool with me. Cable number 20. This is the first cameo appearance of Teenage Hope Summers in Cable number 21, which is her first full appearance as a teen. Really cool cover too. I just picked this one up last weekend for cover price. This is all new Wolverine number 2, and this features, I believe, the first appearance of X-23's clone, Gabby, who I didn't even really know about the character until I picked up that, I forget the issue number, but the one that debuts the new kind of like X-Force based black and gray costume. But I didn't even know about her as a character, so I looked into this, and this book will, like I said, it will go like 10, or maybe I didn't say it, I don't know. But it'll go between $10 and $15 online. So if you can pick it up at cover price, why not? Here's X-Men number 155 and Uncanny X-Men number 161. Just chipping away at that holy grail run of mine that encompasses giant size X-Men and starts at X-Men number 94 and goes all the way through Uncanny 175, which to me is the golden age of the X-Men franchise, where you had Claremont teamed up with Dave Cockrum, then John Byrne, then Dave Cockrum again, and then ending it off with Paul Smith. I mean, so much good stuff, so much world building, so much of what we love about the X-Men was built in that run, that era. So really cool. Down to 4 more issues. 94 is the only big one that I have left on the list, which is a big one. But other than that, the rest of them I should be able to get for like well under $10. Or $10 if I wanted minty mint. Wonder Woman number 292. As I've also stated before, I don't really own many issues from Wonder Woman Volume 1. So it never interested me when I was younger. So this storyline, I guess it involves all the major DC heroines. So you have Wonder Woman, Power Girl, Huntress, Black Canary, Supergirl, and I think some others too. I want to say Starfire, and just about anyone that's a major DC heroine gets involved in this storyline. I want to say it's only a 3-parter, so I picked up number 2. This was also like maybe, I don't know, $2 or $3. Pretty cool copper. This is Wild Dog number 1. Well, what can I say? I hoard first appearances. I'm not much of a comic book hoarder per se, but one thing I do like is I like to have a lot of first appearances. That's one thing I've always collected, as even dating back as a young speculator. So if I can see a first appearance or find the first appearance rather at a decent price, I'll snatch it up. So Wild Dog number 1, I picked this up for $3. Tough black cover, high grade. I wouldn't pay any more than that. I guess this character has garnered some interest because of fans of the Arrow show. So that's pretty cool. For $3, why not? Here was a book that I couldn't believe that was just chilling in a long box. I mean, it's not that expensive. Mousavi Yojimbo, number 1, from Fantagraphics Books. And great Copper Age indie book here. I've heard a lot of good things about it, a lot of good things about this character. Was looking for something a little different anyway, as I usually am. And how could I turn this away for $5, man? Pretty cool. Getting on to my favorite age to collect from, the Bronze Age. We have Tarzan, Lord of the Jungle, number 1, done by Conan the Barbarian Supreme Team of Roy Thomas and Big John Buscema. And this book was actually for free. I ended up having a stack of comics, and I had this in the stack, And it was going to put the amount off a little bit, and the owner didn't have any change, so we just threw this one in for free. He only had it marked for $3. It's probably, you know, fine plus condition, which is totally cool with me. And this is actually the first and only Tarzan comic in my collection. I used to actually own this back when I was in elementary school. So it's cool, always cool to pick up those books that you had as a kid at a really decent price as an adult. So, and speaking of which, I never owned this comic as a kid, but I used to own other copies of Shogun Warriors, and I always wanted the first issue. And I'd never really seen it banging around either. I'd actually never even seen the first issue, period, until YouTube. I kind of forgot about it, obviously. I haven't been looking for it since I was in elementary school either. So when I stumbled onto this for, I want to say it was either between $3 and $5 also at my regular LCS, snatched it up real quick, didn't even think about it. Pretty cool to have. Another one, another first issue off my Marvel Bronze Age list. Fantastic Four, number 143. Really cool Doctor Doom versus the FF cover. And I am still on a Fantastic Four kick, man. If I can find any decent kind of Fantastic Four issues from the Silver Age or Bronze Age, I am just snatching them up. If any other Fantastic Four fans out there, if you have holes in your collection, I would say go after them now, even on eBay. Because, like I've said in last week's video, Marvel has basically shit on the Fantastic Four for a long time. But the way I view it, and, you know, Sony didn't do any, was it Sony or Fox? Nah, I believe it's Fox, right? Fox didn't do any favors to the Fantastic Four franchise. I mean, 3 bad movies, with the third one, I haven't even watched the last one, the third one at all. But between that and Marvel crapping on them, the Fantastic Four was, I mean, the franchise has not been treated kindly. But the way I look at it is this. The Fantastic Four was around long before I came onto the scene, and they will be around long after I leave. So, all it takes is one really good creative team with a good take, and a good movie. A good movie. I mean, the best thing that for the Fantastic Four would be if Fox could license them out like Sony did with Spiderman. And the Fantastic Four, out of all of Marvel's properties, they are tailor-made for the Marvel Disney movie blueprint. I mean, Disney would go buck wild with this franchise. So, who knows? But if you want Fantastic Four issues, now is the time to be snatching them up. So, anyway, long-winded point over, I guess. And, yes, Fantastic Four number 143. Number 155 versus the Silver Surfer. I mean, how cool is that? Almost as cool as number 170 with the Thing facing off against Luke Cage. All of these books were under $5. It's almost criminal to leave them there that cheap. Superman number 220. Really cool. This is actually my only Superman Silver Age issue. I ended up getting it from that comic book shop that's been buying off someone's collection. And it's a collection that I've been nibbling away at for the past like 2 or 3 months. So I wasn't looking for this issue, but when I was just fumbling around looking through the collection, it was just sitting there for like $10. $10 for this issue. Has a little miscoloring or discoloring or staining at the bottom right corner, and maybe a slight crease there, but I would say that is a solid fine condition, especially for a Silver Age issue. Look at how those colors pop. So $10 all day. Really cool. Superman number 220. Superman and the Flash. Story is super hokey, as you would expect from DC in the Silver Age, but still a cool pickup. Alright, for the rest of this video, it's all about Spider-Man. Giant Size Superheroes, number 1, featuring Spider-Man versus Morbius the Vampire and the Man-Wolf. Gil Kane on artwork. Really cool, tough black cover. And check out that spine. Pretty nice. Not mint, but for these spines from the 70s, man, I will take that all day long. Usually they can be crushed, they're blown out at the top, they're blown out at the bottom, they're missing chunks, spine splits. There's all sorts of stuff to look out for with these Bronze Age square bound books, so always be on the lookout for that. Really cool. Picked it up for $10. That is a steal, in my opinion. I don't know. So another comic that I was really super psyched to have. Center this a little bit better. Amazing Spider-Man number 119. This was one of those that I went on a mission and just started looking for it because this was also part of that collection that was sold to that comic book shop. But he had these books like super expensive. He had this copy right here for like $75, and it had like creases down here and it wasn't good. And he had this issue, number 120, so number 119 if I didn't say anything, and number 120. He had that for $100. Now, I ended up getting both of these in very fine plus condition to maybe even near mint minus. I don't know. Great auction deal that I ended up scoping out on eBay. One of those rare times that you really score something really nice on eBay at a good price. So, really happy to pick these up. This is a classic two-part Spider-Man versus the Hulk in Canada. Love these. I want to say I read these as a little kid in some kind of reprint form or another. So I've always wanted them in my collection. This story ends up segueing into the death of Gwen Stacy, which unfortunately I still don't own yet, but I was super happy to pick these up in my collection. I ended up paying like $32 for both of those issues a piece. So, and those issues can be pretty expensive. And now I am super happy to present to you all my first Stan Lee signature. Outstanding. Rewinding a little bit, 2 years ago, I went to my first Comic-Con, Rhode Island Comic-Con, and I wasn't really that impressed. Last year, I was going to go, but my main motivation for going was to get an autograph from Stan Lee, which was supposed to be his last appearance at the Rhode Island Comic-Con. So I'm like, all right, cool. So to get admission to the con and to buy a place, to guarantee a place in line, to guarantee that you get a signature, was going to come out to like maybe $100 altogether, which I was down for. But then when I started doing a little bit more research about people's horror stories online from trying to get autographs from Stan Lee, I was a little off-put by it. Basically, all I wanted was to go up there, get a comic signed, tell Stan Lee thank you, and that was it. I didn't need a life story, just, oh, thank you for everything, goodbye. And from what I heard was, basically, you stand in line, and you wait, and you wait, and you wait, and then you ended up, once you get to the end of the line, you'll give you a book to a handler where they ask you where you want Stan Lee to sign your copy of your book, because he's just about legally blind. So you don't even get to meet Stan Lee, and they'll bring the book over to him, point to where he needs to sign, and depending on how tired the man is, because he is 93, I'm not disrespecting him at all, but sometimes your the signature is kind of illegible. So that's another detriment. You don't even get to say hello to him at all. You don't say thank you or anything. So, and then after that, you would have to go get it certified. So with all that cash and all that time, and I don't like to wait in line, especially if I could be potentially disappointed like that. So I decided not to go last year. So flash forward to Monday this week. I'm on eBay looking around for this copy, only signed by Todd McFarlane, and I ended up discovering this, well, stumbling onto it rather, and I ended up paying a little over $100 for this comic, which I think is great from my perspective because it's less than I would have had to go through and endure at a Comic-Con to get Stan Lee's autograph. So I know there's been people online because I ended up doing some research after I bought it, which is kind of ass backwards, but people have spent more for this comic, and people have spent less for this comic. Autographed by Stan Lee. This did come with a C of A from Stan Lee Collectibles, which is really cool. I wouldn't have bought it without that. And so very, very cool. I've been collecting comics for a long time. I'm not big into signatures. This is probably my only my third signed comic in my collection. But Stan Lee, man, I mean, holy shit. So I have my first Stan Lee signature on a comic that was drawn by my favorite, all-time favorite Spider-Man artist, and this, along with Amazing Spider-Man number 300, would have to be his two most iconic covers, and I'd have to actually say I like this cover a little bit better than Amazing Spider-Man 300, which is tough. So, Spider-Man's creator, and probably, well, definitely the greatest writer of the Spider-Man series, and my favorite Spider-Man artist. It's very cool. Obviously, it takes a lot for me to get this geeked up over something. So I know Stan Lee has a bunch of signatures out there, so it's not exactly rare to have one, but this is the first one in my collection. So that's all I have for this week. I'll be back next week with another haul. Thank you very much for watching, subscribing, liking, commenting. I dig it, man. So take it easy. Take care. Have a great weekend. Bye.